Good evening. How are you, Gil?
Good evening, Noam. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I can't wait forward.
Okay, well, we have an exciting group of Mishnah. We're doing three,
Free. Okay.
just three, and they're relatively simple.
Okay.
Um,
Fine.
it, um, this time, I think the main issue we're talking about in all of them is shmirah, guarding your animal. But in this case, we're not talking about Karen like we've been doing mostly. We're talking about Shane Verego. So here we go. Um, we'll start with Aleph, and then it'll kind of be the introduction to Bet, which is a more complex one, and then Gimel is fairly straightforward. Okay,
Go ahead.
Aleph. Hakones tzon nadir, somebody who brings his flock into in the pen in the barn. V'nal b'fanei karaui, and he locked it properly. The yatsa v'zika, but it went out and did damage. Patur, he's exempt because he took the proper precautions.
Yeah. You lock
Maybe
the
I should
door.
stop. Right, let me just stop here for a second and explain what the proper. There's an issue that the Gemara discusses, and we've discussed it once before as well, which is there's Shmira Meula and Shmira Techuta.
Hmm.
So in this case, the Shmira Meula, that's like very high level of guarding. But Shmira Pechuta, like a low level of guarding, is really all that we're asking for in this case. Um, and a low level of guarding, this is not said in the Mishnah, and I don't think it's said in Bartanura, so that's why I'm explaining it. A low level of guarding is basically when you have a door that can withstand an ordinary wind. Ruach Mitsuya.
Hmm.
So that's why we're patur here, because he basically locked the door, and the door, wasn't iron and it wasn't. It was just a door that was able to withstand an ordinary wind. Okay. Lo na'al b'fanei karawi. He didn't lock it properly. V'yatsa v'zika chayav, and it went out and did damage. Now he's liable. That's just the opposite, and everything here is just common sense.
Hmm.
Nifratza v'alayla or sheparatsua listim v'yatsa v'zika patur. So in another case, it breached, it broke out of the barn at nighttime, or um, robbers broke in. The Yatsavis kind of went out and did damage. Were exempt in this case because he did. Maybe we should look at. I'll read one more sentence and we'll maybe look at what Bartanura says. Hotziu listim chayavim. But if the robbers themselves let the animal out, now the robbers are liable. So in other words, I think what we're basically saying is you you're only responsible for shmirah pichuta, an ordinary level of care, not an extremely high level of care. You can't necessarily expect that somebody's gonna break in the middle of the night, and you can't control what their behavior is. But if the listim came in, now they suddenly have achrayut, they have responsibility, and the same responsibility that hakones tzon nadir, somebody puts the sheep into the pen. He also has responsibility. Now, if the listim do it, they've assumed that responsibility. So that's how Jewish law works. So so maybe just we'll look at the Bartanor on this. The last part of it, I think, deals with this issue. Ah, there we go. Sorry. There we go. Okay, the hanat. Okay, hakones patur. Somebody brings a sheep and is exempt. Dehan natra v'mai havele lamavad. He was guarding it, and what else could he do? Is what Barton was saying. He took ordinary precautions. That's all that's being asked. Hotiu listim afagav delo hotziu mamash ela she'amdu b'fanei ad she'yatsa ve've'ilu ke'ilu hotziu b'yadam ve'chayavim. There's a typo there. So he's saying that even though he let it out, he didn't let it out really. Like he didn't really let it out. He just stood in front of it and it left. In other words, it's like like if I go in front of the sheep and I'm scaring it and it goes the other way and it goes out the door, I cause it to leave. So that's the kind of liability Bartanor is saying that the listim, the robbers, would have. Even if even if they're not pulling it out or pushing it out, if they just stand in a way that makes them go out, they're liable. So basically, this Mishnah I could summarize this way. It's saying that an ordinary level of care is all that is expected. But when we go to bet, now we're going to see something different. Mishnah bet. Hinicha b'chama. He left it out in the sun. O she'misara l'cher shoteh v'katan. Or he let it out, put it in the care of somebody who a deaf mute, a retarded person, or a child. Ve'yatza v'yizika, and it went out and did damage. Chayav. So why? The question is, why are we chayav now? They weren't chayav last time, and the answer is because in the first case, hinicha b'chama. If you leave the animal out in the sun and the sun is like beating down on it and it's hot and it's uncomfortable, the animal's going to do anything it can to break out of there. So what we're learning from this Mishnah is sometimes an ordinary level of care is just not enough. In the first case, Mishnah Aleph, it was patur. The owner was patur. In this case, chayav. The reason why it's chayav is because he needed to use even extra care. Because the animal's nature is, I'm not going to suffer like that. And then also the case of the deaf mute or the somebody who's mentally impaired or minor, they don't have the proper responsibility, and therefore you're responsible. So if something happens, so that one's pretty simple. And then to finish it, it says Misara leroeh. He turned it over to a shepherd. Nichnas roeh tachtav. The shepherd takes his place for responsibility for damages. The one thing that Bartanor says about this is that I believe it's in Bartanor, if not another commentary I saw, that basically we're talking about a case where or there is often a case anyway, where maybe I should actually read the Mishnah to the end and then we'll see. I may have to do that. Sorry. So I said that Misrada turns it over to a shepherd. If we could scroll down a little bit, the shepherd takes the place and responsibility. Nafla, okay. Nafla legimna v'ne'enet. It fell into a garden and benefited and enjoyed itself, basically through eating. Mishalemet ma'shene'enet. This is interesting. The owner pays for specifically for what benefit it had, not for the damage that was done. It may have done 500 shekels worth of damage, but it enjoyed 100 shekels worth of food. But we're only going to pay 100 shekels worth of food that it ate. Why? Because it was be'onis. It was not something that was expected, and therefore this is a shepherd. This is an owner that used an ordinary level of care. He didn't need to use more care. But now the next case, yarda chedarka v'yizika, it went down in a normal fashion and damaged in its usual way. Mishalemet mashizika. Now we pay what it damaged, which is a higher figure than what it just enjoyed. Kitzad mishalemet mashizika. All right, this is the hardest part of our three Mishnayot tonight, but I'll try to make it simple. How do we pay for the damage it did? Shamin bitse'a beotasadeh. We estimate the value of a bitse'a as a large unit of land. Let's just make it simple and call it that. Kama aita yafa v'chama hi yafa. How much it was worth before the damage, how much it was worth after the damage. Rabbi Shimon Omer, achal perot gemurim, mashalemet perot gemurim. Rabbi Shimon says if it ate fully ripened produce, you pay for the market value of the fully ripened produce. Im se'ah, im sa times the time. If it was a unit of a se'ah, then you pay for a se'ah. If it was a unit of bits a time, 2 se'ah, you pay that. So let me explain. This is a little weird. I shouldn't say weird, just complex. The Tana Kamma is saying before Rabbi Shimon, he's basically saying you estimate the damage relative to a large unit of land. In other words, the animal goes in and it eats, let's just say, an aruga. It's a flower bed, like a little square of produce. We're not the damages are not that he pays for that square of produce. Rather, that might be, let's just say that'll add up to 25 shekels. Let's just say. Rather, the Mishna, the Tana Kamma of the Mishna is saying, no. Look at the damage in relation to a very large body of land, which is a betseah. That's a lot of hectares. It's a big unit of land. Because now the unit of land was worth, let's say, 100 shekels before the damage, and after the damage, it was worth 97 shekels, or 95, let's say. That's 5 shekels of damage. Now you're liable for 5 shekels, not for 25. Because we're looking at a very big unit. And really, it was only one flower bed, so it really wasn't a huge amount of damage. For whatever reason, our sages wanted to estimate the value that way. Rabbi Shimon, however, takes a stricter view, where he's basically saying, no, you pay for what you ate. So you had peod gemurim, completely ripened fruit, you pay for that, the market price of it. And if you ate a whole seah, like a whole hectare worth of food, that's what you eat. That's what you paid for. And then, so I'm not going to go with it, take you through the notes of the Bartanura, but basically the Bartanura says that the halacha is according to Rabbi Shimon, but that's not exactly, that's how he and I think the Ramban determined it. However, later authorities thought differently, and according to the Shulchan Aruch, it's neither of these approaches, but it's a little bit closer to the Tana Kamma, which is that we do measure it in relation to a larger bit of land, but not as big as a se'ah or bet se'ah. Rather, it's like we do like a pi shishim. How much? Because shishim, like 60 times the damage, is a common measurement in Jewish law, and so that's how we look at it. Like how does it compare if it was in a group of 60, and how much is the value diminished by having taken some bit of it out of it? So there you go. That was.
I think it's easier to estimate the value of the damage according to the Tana Kamma.
Do you?
Yeah, because Rabbi Shimon, you can't know if you're not watching and following the animal, you can't know how much did she ate. Maybe she ate 10 kilos. Maybe she ate only one apple. How can you estimate how much did she ate?
Yeah. So that's a good point. And it seems like the halakhic authorities seem to agree with you and want to take some kind of approach that's based on a big picture view and not like a granular view of which apple it ate and which pear it ate. So yeah, I think that's interesting. So there we have it. That was basically the first Mishnah is ordinary care. The second Mishnah is a little bit extra care in certain situations. And then it goes into how we measure the damages. And now we get to Mishnah Gimel. It's a short one. Magdish betach sadeh shel chaviro shelo v'rshut. Somebody who's piling up his produce in somebody else's field without permission. V'achlatan be'emto shel ba'al sadeh. And then the owner of that field, his cow comes in and eats this person's produce. He's patur. The reason he's patur is because somebody invaded his home or his field without permission. So it's common sense. The imus kavahen balagadish chayav, and if it's this cow or animal was damaged by the produce that he introduced into the field that was not his own, then he's liable to pay the owner of the field for the damage done to his cow. Like, so if the cow goes and whatever, eats all of its fruit and gets a stomach ache, or I don't know what it would be exactly, but he's liable because he entered his property without permission. And the final sentence here, v'im yigdish b'rshut, ba'al hasadeh chayav. But if he piled his grain with permission, then the Ba'al Sadeh is chayav. Then the owner of the field is liable for damages done. So maybe we should take a look at Bartanura for the explanation for this, for our final Mishnah, our final sentence in our final Mishnah. Gimel. There we go. So it says, okay, Bagmara, Mukila bebika sheregilim kulan la'asod begoren echad. Ze gidisho veze gidisho umanin shomer. Okay, so basically saying in the times of the Gemara, where the Gemara is describing a situation where somebody who lets somebody else in with permission, he does it because he does that for everybody. It's like a business he has. It's a service he has. Everybody comes into his field, piles their stuff up, and he accepts responsibility for it because I guess he gets paid for it. So he's like a shomer, and he gets paid for it. The kibban she'amar shomer ayel v'gedosh havo ki'ilu amar ayel v'antarlach. Since he's saying come on in and have your piles of produce here, he's basically saying I will be responsibility for guarding it for you. Aval b'shar b'nei adam afilu higdish b'rshut ein ba'al hasadeh chayav ad mekabel alei netiruta. He's saying, but if anybody else, any other person other than somebody whose business it is to let people bring in their grain piles and he watches it, then that person is not chayav unless he explicitly says, go ahead and you could bring it into my property. This is something we actually learned a chapter or two ago, and it was the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, who disagreed in that case with the Tana Kamma, who said basically the position the Tana Kamma allowed some kind of implied permission, but according to Rabbi, it has to be yes, you can come in and bring your produce in. Other than that, you're patur. And there we have concluded 3 Mishnayot about shein v'regel and damages that emanate from those two activities, and the proper guarding and how we assess damages for it. And next week we'll discuss B'ezrat Hashem, Esh, the damage related to fire.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was very interesting. Thank you, as always.
I appreciate the compliment.